we are live on YouTube. I'm joined by Joe McColgan, and he's just had his fight announcement. It's for the lightweight title. Joe, I'm so excited for this fight.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long time coming. I know I've had a previous opportunity, and but it was a short notice one. This is completely different. I've known about from about 12 weeks out. So yeah, it just feels completely different. This one, very excited for it. It's a good style matchup for me. So yeah, just can't wait for it.
So you've had a full camp then. If you've known for 12 weeks, are you able to train normally at the moment?
Yeah, like more than a full camp. Normally, I actually don't find out who my opponent is anywhere between 6 to 2 weeks out from the fight. So I've never had this amount of time to prepare for one person. And in terms of training, yeah, like nothing's really changed for me over the lockdown because we have that elite status. We're able to train, and we've got a full squad of guys who are on that same status. So it's actually been better. Normally, like in a normal training day, you go to like a jiu-jitsu class, and there's people from all different levels, and the class is taught to cater to all those different levels. But for the past like year, I think it's pretty much been training is fight specific for myself and Paul and any of the other guys who are fighting. So it's like having private lessons every single session.
Yeah.
It's great.
I really feel like you can tell when people are in there and fighting. You can tell the people who've had like more kind of one-to-one training and opportunities, and those that haven't been able to train properly, or maybe those that usually need to get sparring partners into the gym and haven't been able to. And there seems to be like a real kind of gulf between the types of training that people have been able to do.
Oh, absolutely. And you'll see it even more now over in Northern Ireland. The gyms have actually reopened. So, like the non fighters who didn't have that elite status, they are now able to train again, and they will be in shock at the amount, like the kind of improvements that the fighters have made since the lockdown began. Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
I'm excited to see it. So let's talk about your opponent. Now he's the current champion, Agy Sagdari. His last 2 fights have gone to split decisions. So his last fight was against Donovan Desmay. What did you think of the fight, and what did you think of the decision?
It wasn't a great fight. But I like, and I've had my words about Donovan Desmay before, but I actually thought Donovan won the fight. He took the fight on 6 days' notice, and he did his best. Like he tried to beat the champion, but obviously you can only do so much whenever you've got 6 days of preparation, like over 5 rounds. And Agy just kind of sat back and just stole the rounds, and then turned it up in the last couple of rounds. It's kind of, as a champion, you should probably do a bit more. You should have been finishing Donovan Desmay, in my opinion. So, like, it wasn't an impressive fight. Like, I mean, he's like, I'd say he's a good champion. He's active, but I think rightly so. He spent 50 minutes in a Cage Warriors cage, and I don't even think he's taken a punch. He's not a mark on his face. So why wouldn't he turn this around really quickly? Like, I remember after I fought Mehdi Ben Lakhdar, it was the fight of the year on Cage Warriors. I was severely concussed. You can actually see it in my lip right now. When I smile, see that side drips down a bit. Like, that's permanently paralyzed from that Mehdi Ben Lakhdar fight.
Really?
Yeah, my nose is like I have permanent paralysis on my lip, and my septum is so bad. And I fought 9 weeks later on Cork.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? That's like, I like people say like Agy's great, like he's a good champion because he's turning it around really quickly, but he had a sparring match for 25 minutes, and 16 weeks later he's fighting again. That's not a quick turnaround. That's his duty as champion. But that's just my view. Like, I think he is, like, he's a great fighter, but I think that maybe he's gotten lucky the past couple of times, but I don't think he'll get lucky.
Well, the time before was a split decision as well over Jack Grant. How did you feel about that fight and that decision?
I haven't actually watched that fight. I think I watched like maybe like a few minutes of the first round. I just going off what people are saying, it was a close fight. But I think Agy actually took that in short notice, and so fair play to him. Jack's a hard puzzle to figure out, and fair play to him. He came in maybe on short notice, took it to him, fought a good fight, and came away with the win. So yeah, fair play to him. But again, I haven't really watched that fight. I let my coaches do all the watching, and they can figure things out about what his style is like. I've watched some things on him, so I roughly know what he's up to, and my coaches will go do a deeper analysis of him, and kind of that. I was talking last night to my coach, and if I look back at all my fights, my coaches have never told me not to do anything differently for any opponent. It's the same thing. They know exactly what style works for me, and I just go out and do it, no matter who I'm fighting, really. And if I'm confident in myself, if I've got the right preparation, I don't really see anybody beating me, and I hope to prove that on the 20th or 26th of June.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this fight because it's just, I feel like you really, really, really deserve the opportunity again. Like you said, you had the first title shot on short notice.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that fight now in hindsight? Anything you'd change, or just kind of thoughts on it in general?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even like thinking about it, to be honest with you. It's probably one of the worst kind of weeks of my MMA career. And I say week because the minute that fight was offered to me, it was just like a slippery slope. Nothing was going right. It was hard to prepare. When everything was shutting down, coaches, family were all saying it's not even going to go ahead, Joe. And you're trying to cut weight, and you're fighting. You go from fighting from 3 rounds to fighting the 5 rounds, and with no preparation. Against someone who is if you look at our styles, we're hard style matchups for each other. So it was a hard fight for both of us. And it didn't work out. It didn't go my way in the night, and that's fair enough. Live by the sword, die by the sword, and all that. And the main thing I took away from that fight was champions always find a way to win, and Mason Jones had the same kind of excuses, the same hurdles that I had to try and overcome, and he overcame them, and he showed up and did what he needed to do, and that's why he walked away the champion, and I didn't. So my lesson from that was I had loads and loads to learn from that. I mean, in my preparation is I've always said, now I say that if I will never commit to a fight if I don't think that I'm going to be able to prepare fully for that fight. And because I work a full-time job, that so there's going to be periods during the year where I actually can't fight because the work is going to be so intense.
What do you do, Joe?
I work as a business analyst for a payments company. And so I work on projects, and projects have peaks and troughs. So sometimes it's not going to be busy, and then the other times whenever you're close to an implementation, it's just going to be hectic. You're working serious hours, so we just would never schedule a fight around then. So the main thing is that only accept a fight when I know I'm going to be able to prepare fully. Don't focus solely on one style, because things can change. A fighter can pull out. You might have to be matched up against a wrestler, and you've been preparing for a southpaw boxer, things like that. But I suppose the main one is about the mindset. It's just the champion's mindset is, champions always find a way to win and always remain positive. Seek opportunities to do different training whenever you've been injured, and I've actually applied those lessons. I applied them in. Last year, I turned down a fight that was scheduled close to when I got married, because I knew that I just wasn't going to be fully into the camp. And then after that, when I fought Kieran Lister, I knew I was going to be fighting a southpaw striker. But I trained for everything. I trained for a wrestler. I trained for anyone, really. And I walked in there fully prepared, not only to fight Kieran Lister, but fully prepared to fight any other guy in the division, even if it was a champion over 5 rounds, if it needed to be. And then again, further evidence of my of learning from this was that they actually offered me the Agy fight last time around, before it was offered to anybody else. and I knew that I had just bought a new house. Me and my wife bought our house, and it needs a lot of work done to it. And I had to spend most of my time doing that, and I just knew that I wasn't going to fully be able to commit. Even though I said I was just like I get a heartbeat here, but like I need to give a good account of myself.
Yeah.
So I turned that down. And now now that now that everything's done, all I need to focus on is the fight, and I've got loads of time to prepare. So you're going to see a kind of, I say 2.0. That's cliche to say, but it really is. I'm a different animal now, and you saw it in the Kieran Lister fight. You're going to see it in the Agy fight, and I'm 100% confident that I'm going to walk away with that belt. Have to. Can't beat
I
me.
love that champions mindset thing. I totally believe in it as well. And, it's a bit like a football team as well. If you're, you're in that zone and you truly believe you're going to win, like it doesn't matter how late in the game it gets, you just still 100% believe you're going to get that goal in extra time or like injury time. Like you just know it's coming kind of thing. And you're going to find a way to make sure you walk away with that win. And I think that's so important in fighting.
So important. Like I remember, like after that Mason Jones fight, it was lockdown. You couldn't train, so I was just running all the time. And every run, I was thinking about like John Jones, like everyone. Thinking like the time like he broke his big toe against Chael Sonnen. He's still like all the champions, all the great champions will always win. They'll always find a way to win through adversity. And I was like, if I'm ever going to fight again, that is going to be my attitude. It has to be, or else I'll never fight again. And I worked on that. Like I worked on my mindset, and I'm like I'm definitely in a much stronger place mentally and physically. It's always been there. Technically, it's always been there. It's just the mindset sometimes has let me down. And now you're going to get the full package.
I felt bad for everyone as well who picked up a loss on that event and then had to go into lockdown with not being able to train. And like, surely you want to get straight back in there and just like show what you can do and get straight back in the gym and work on all the things you're unhappy with.
Yeah, well, for me, actually, it wasn't like that because I was thinking, you know what? That was my last hurrah. Like, I'm just done with the sport. Like,
did you really think that?
Yeah, completely. Like, I retired about 60 times on the flight home. It's just one of those things because I'm a wee bit older, and I was just thinking, do you know what? But the more I kind of, I took time to reflect properly. I knew that there was, I had like obviously a lot more to give, and I could still get there. And I knew I was like, right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to have to take on the best. And that's why I actually asked for Kieran Lister because he was a new guy into the division, some fresh blood.
At the time,
he was undefeated, had some really good like knockouts, one punch KOs, a good striker. And we messaged Dean after he won his fight against Tom Mearns, and Ian was all over it. He was like, yeah, happy days. And, like he accepted it straight away. And then, so like, and I said in an interview before, I was like, people were asking me, I was like, oh, what about like, do you reckon you can get a title shot off this? And I was like, well, if I go out there and I squeeze a decision over Kieran, then absolutely not. I haven't proven that I'm ready. But if I can go out and put him away in emphatic fashion, then maybe I am the next in line. And that's what I did. And, if you take away the Mason Jones fight, like I'm on a four fight winning streak.
Yeah.
That short notice like hurdle, like let's just forget about that. Like I'm on a winning streak. All my performances have been very good. I've got 3 first round finishes and a draw, which is fight of the year, which could be argued that I did win that fight. But
I want to ask you about that. How you saw that decision?
I see, to be honest, like I like it. Everyone wants to like. I look back and everyone says like, well, I think you did enough in the last round to negate the 10-8. And, I took him down in the like last minute and a half and I held him down. And then in the first minute, there's about 2.5 minutes of me actually winning that round, and then 2.5 minutes of him absolutely beating the shit out of me. So like, there's an argument to be made that I actually did enough to make it a 10-9. So that would have been 29-28 for me. But I like the story behind it now. I like that it's a draw. I like that he came out and because to be able, like he was yeah, I saw him looking at his corner in the second round. I've seen this in a few of my opponents before. Just looking to his corner, not having a clue what to do. He was being taken down, beaten on the ground, and he was being beaten on the feet. And so he came out. I walked into that third round thinking he cannot do a single thing to me. This is in the bag. He must have been thinking I need to knock him out. And Jesus, he was very close to doing it. So like it's good. I think he deserved the draw. And I think it's a good storyline. And yeah,
It
I'm
was
just
a
happy with it.
mental fight. It was
Yeah,
amazing to watch, although like one to watch kind of behind your behind your
yeah,
hands.
yeah,
But it was absolutely crazy, and I loved
oh,
it.
I
And
kind of,
you're right, it does set up a rematch at some point for sure.
yeah, 100%.
But to hear you
Yeah,
talk about the injuries you've walked away from, like the lasting injuries, your lip and your nose and stuff, like
yeah.
that's the stuff that people don't think about when you're
No.
watching a fight of the year and enjoying it, and
Hmm.
like
Well,
you don't think about the lasting consequences of that for the fighters.
yeah, you absolutely don't. And the ones that I just described, they're just superficial. What damage has been done to my brain? That's what I want to know about. Although I did get an MRI, and I asked them to do like a comparative analysis to make sure that my baseline MRI, so the one I had years ago versus now, they say
Yeah.
there's nothing untoward there, but they still don't know, like with CT and stuff. So
Yeah, it's
I've
something they can't check for until after you've died,
yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So um yeah.
But I mean, like I'm very sensible. Whenever I sign up, like during training, like everyone mocks me because I'm always about brain trauma, and like I don't want to be sparring. Like I do spar hard, but like I'm like there's no reason to be sparring 100% to the head,
Yeah.
and I always limit them at the sparring I do. But whenever I
How
sign
much
up to the
sparring is that?
how much sparring? Once a
Yeah.
week, just once a week.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I might up it to like twice a week if I've been injured, and then I need to
Hmm.
catch up with you. I just need to get sparring so that I just feel sharp.
Yeah.
How I react to being punched in like the first couple of weeks of camp is very different to how I react in the last couple of weeks of camp. And that's a process that I just need to go through. Like I mean, it's not as if I react like a shy away. It's just like say I get punched and I get stung a wee bit, and I take a couple of seconds to think I need to take him down. Whereas see when I get punched in the last couple of weeks of camp, I'm bam bam straight back with counters. Like
Yeah.
it's just kind of par for the course. I don't care. Like so, I just need to get that. And as soon like for the Kieran Lister fight, I didn't spar for the last 3 weeks because in my very last spar, I got cut open on my eye. I had a bad cut, so I literally couldn't do any grappling or sparring before that. But that happened in the fifth round, and before that, I felt amazing. I felt so sharp, and so I had to go to A&E and get stitched up, and I was like, my coach was like, I'm not going to be able to spar, but they were like, that's fine because you looked sensational, and I felt good, and I was like, well, I don't need to do any more sparring as long as I keep my fitness where it's at. I feel confident, I feel sharp. That'll carry over into the fight. So I just need
And
to get to
clearly
that
it
point.
did.
Yeah, but I just need to get that to that level in sparring, and then everything after that is just maintenance for me. So
So
yeah,
you're
like
feeling
currently,
good this time around, or is
yes.
this like too early to to
No,
say
like
you're at like optimum?
I'm not optimum. I'm going to be peaking right up around I'm going to aim to peak just right around the fight. So I've still got more to give in training camp. Like I feel sharp. I felt sharp like 4 weeks ago, but I want to, because this is 5 rounds. I want to be able to push the pace hard for 5 rounds if it actually lasts that long. And yeah, so at the moment I might spar. I'm probably on about like one light spar on Sundays or pads, and then and that's just kind of like going with like just like the amateurs or some of the other fighters, like nothing too crazy. And then on Tuesdays, so tonight's going to be a hard spar. We'll do a doghouse, which is like a fresh man in. So like I'll have Paul
Yeah.
Hughes one round, then a couple of other boys the next couple of rounds, and then Paul Hughes back in, and they're all fresh coming in. Whereas I'm going to be wrecked, and I'll do that for 6 rounds, and that's my hard sparring for the week. And then sometimes do a bit of boxing sparring on the Friday with some of the pro boxers from around my area. It
Are
just
you
depends,
careful about who you spar with when you've got a fight coming up?
Yeah, and like, well, not really. Like, I'll spar with anyone. I'm not like there's guys that are just like if I'm fighting like like if say I was fighting Mehdi Ben Lakhdar, he boxed for France, like he's coming out to throw hands.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be getting in like Matthew Elliott, one of the younger pros in our team. He's just a
Mm-hmm.
wrestler, like at a very, and he's got strikes as well, but he comes in whenever he's sparring me, he's wrestling.
Yeah.
So I don't need to be sparring him too much. I'll spar him and I'll use it for cardio and things like that. But like I'll be bringing in like I'll be sparring some of the pro boxers, and I'll be sparring some of the pro Muay Thai fighters. So I'm more selective about my sparring, like just to kind of tailor it slightly towards the fight. But by and large, it's kind of all the same people, really, because as I said, never really always prepare for everyone. So prepare for the wrestler, prepare for striker, because you could be fighting anyone. Anyone could pull out right up until the fight. So just stay ready for anyone.
So true. And especially with COVID as well, we've got like another element added in. Like I think this time, touch wood, we should be getting way less of those COVID positive tests. But
exactly.
God, that was an absolute stinker when we were losing amazing fights to that.
I know.
The
exactly.
last two trilogy.
It's still happening, but like it's becoming a bit more rare now. So hopefully it's kind of settles down now.
I hope so. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you won't be sharing the card with Paul Hughes this time. He released a statement yesterday to say he's not fighting on this trilogy.
Yeah, I know. It's like, it's a bit of a string of bad luck for Paul. I think everyone thought that he won the original fight with Jordan, and then it's a very close fight. But I thought Paul, very close fight. Listen, before I say anything, your man Jordan Vucenic is a great champion, very active, comes to fight and wants to fight the hard fights. So he is like as true as a champion as they come. Like big fan of his. I just think that Paul won the fight. But regardless, so that even Graham Boylan said we've got two number one contenders here, Jordan and Paul, and rightly so. Jordan fights Chapa, Paul fights the winner of that. But Paul, being Paul, was like, I'll fight the next guy in line. And he did. And he that guy he fought, I can't remember his name, but
Hendon.
Very good.
James Hendon.
Yeah, James Hendon. Very, very good. Paul beat him. So Paul, before that fight, was the number one contender, took out the next in line, and now he's still the number one contender, yet he still doesn't have that. He still can't be fighting for the belt. So rightly so.
Because Jordan's next fight, where he took the belt off the champion, was so close as well.
I know. It's just a string of bad luck, and it should be Paul fighting for the belt, but you can see why they want to do the rematch. It's just unlucky for Paul, and rightly so. He's sitting this one out. He's fought back to back. Take some time to recover, not train like a madman, which is going to be very hard for Paul because he's constantly training, really, really hard. So take a bit of downtime, relax, and then he should fight the winner of Jordan and Chapa in September. Hopefully, it's not another close fight. Hopefully, we get a more decisive winner. Definitive answer. Yeah, and
so
then Paul
when Graham replied to Paul's statement, he talked about potentially Paul fighting for the belt at the end of the year in Ireland.
Right.
Which,
yes, I saw that.
Like that would be super cool if we're having a Cage Warriors in Ireland by the end of the year. And it kind of is. I don't know who will be on that card by then, because potentially you and Ian Garry could have defended belts by then in September. It's crazy to think what that card could look like in England.
Exactly.
In Ireland at the end of the year.
Yeah, who knows? Like it could be like we could have three belts on the line, with Irish guys contending for each of those belts from featherweight, lightweight, and welterweight. So, and even middleweight. Imagine Ian Garry actually going for the middleweight strap, and which I think he could do with ease. I think it'd be. I think it'd be an easier run for him. I think he could beat your boy Matthias on the same night that he fights Jack Grant. I just think there's no stopping Ian Garry. Like I've always known he's good, but until that last performance, I was like, wow, geez. he just rises to the level of his opponent and a bit
That was
more.
insane. Like, yeah, the level of person that he was fighting and how easy he made that look. For me, he stole like the trilogy, and
he's amazing. Do you know what fight I would love to see in Gary in? And like people think I'm crazy for it, but I'd love to see him fight Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know who'd win. Ian Gary is long, very good takedown defense, very good takedowns, hits hard. That would be a good fight. Do you know what I mean? That's how high I rate him, because I think Khamzat Chimaev will beat everyone in that UFC welterweight division, probably even middleweight division. But I think that, you know, Ian Gary right now, those two fighting each other, it'll be a close fight. I don't know who would win.
Oh my God, I could wait a few fights before we do see that one. I know for a fact that Ian Gary will back himself all the way to take that. But so you see him beating Jack Grant at the Cage Warriors trilogy? You see him taking the title?
Yeah, I do. I like Jack Grant. I think he's a very, very, very exceptional fighter. Jack Grant's actually got a win over me, like my third amateur fight or something. Fought over at Leeds, and he's very good. He's just I just think that Ian is just better than everybody at the moment. Yeah, so that's no slight on Jack. I think Jack beats everyone else in that tournament bracket. Beats everyone else in the welterweight division. Just Ian beats everybody, in my opinion.
So a fight that I wouldn't like to see is somebody who's just commented saying easy work for Joe. I would hate if they make Rhys McKee against Ian Gary. So what I would like is if Ian Gary moved to middleweight after this fight, and then Rhys comes back into Cage Warriors. I don't know what Rhys's future is, but I thought it was absolutely savage that he was cut from the UFC in the way he was.
Disgrace.
Like we've seen what his opponent from the second fight has gone on to do since then. It doesn't make sense to me. The first fight was so short notice against Khamzat, who, you know, is somebody, has a style that you really need to put in a full camp for. It doesn't make sense to me in any way. However, it is what it is. I'm hoping that he'll be back in Cage Warriors and fighting for that welterweight belt soon. What do you think?
Yes, I completely agree with everything you said there. I think, you know, Rhys took on Khamzat on like 6 days notice.
Yeah, I think it was 6 days.
And I know that Rhys had done no training before that, like maybe some kickboxing rounds, like hadn't done any wrestling or anything. So he just came off like a holiday essentially and fought one of the best guys in the world. And I think that Rhys on a full camp would give him a lot of difficulties. So that should be just kind of, that shouldn't be on the record like that.
And I think we all assumed that would be discounted as well. Yeah. I think.
And then the next fight, he fought that tough guy, and it was should have been fight of the night. It's a phenomenal fight. But I think the thing that is probably harder for the guys who've actually trained with Rhys, we know that Rhys, that was about 10% of Rhys. Rhys would smoke that guy if Rhys, the Rhys that we know, showed up. So I think it's a bit frustrating for us watching that, and then seeing him cut after that. Like, I don't think he deserves that. But from speaking with Rhys, I think Rhys actually is like, okay, right now I've got an opportunity to actually develop and grow. So the next time I'm in the UFC, I'll show them all. And he's very young. I think he's just settling, like just waiting for things to settle down with COVID so that he can go and train, maybe in Canada or elsewhere, and just basically wipe the slate, start fresh, build himself up again, and then fight wherever he needs to fight. I would love to see him come back on the Cage Warriors. I think when he does come back to the Cage Warriors, if he does, I think Ian will either be in the UFC or fighting for the middleweight belt, and I think Rhys slots in nicely into that welterweight division as the top ranked guy, probably fighting for the belt after one fight, or if not, just straight away. But who knows? Rhys has got a style that will last for the ages. Like, he could be picked up by any promotion and paid a ton of money to put on fights of the night, knockouts in the night. You know, so the future's bright for Rhys. I know it probably doesn't seem like it right now, but for like Reece, he'll land on his feet big time.
Yeah. And I think everything happens for a reason, and not that he needed to be any more hungry, but maybe this was all preparation, so that next time around, like, he's got the experience and got because I know, like, he made like a real, like, he'd never been to a UFC event before he was fighting on the card, so like it's all good preparation. And I can't wait to see him back. I love Irish MMA. I think, like, there's so many exciting prospects. It's just it's on fire right now, and it's a shame that there's not a bigger representation in the UFC at the moment. But I really believe that it's just going to come in a big wave, because there's so many of you on the cusp of it.
Exactly, but people, like, I think this is probably evidence of how difficult it is to get in the UFC, because whenever Conor McGregor bust on the UFC, he was he brought with him like Houlihan and all the other guys, Cal Pendred, and I can't remember what do you call the guy? Ashton Daly, and what do you call the other we fly with? I can't remember his name, from Team Rhino, trains with Paul Redmond. Really grumpy. I can't even remember his name. Him, I don't know. Can't even remember his name. It's so embarrassing.
It'd be even more grumpy now that you can't remember him.
But like he brought with him all these different guys, and they're obviously all good enough to get into the UFC in their own bat. But I think that kind of era helped. Like, it was easier being an Irish MMA fighter to get into the UFC. But now that's kind of dust has settled there. It's just kind of normal. Like, you can't get in on the coattails of McGregor anymore. You have to get in off of your own bat, and you have to, like, I just think that's why you're seeing less guys, because it is really hard to get to the UFC. It's not a given. It's absolutely not a given.
And it needs to be as well, because it's hard once you get there. So, like, it needs to be a high barrier to entry.
Absolutely. Like, so the fact that we don't, like, we're such a small island, and there's probably, like, the percentage of our population that actually train MMA is very small. So if someone does get to the UFC, it's an absolutely amazing achievement. And the fact that someone actually from this island, like, got onto the UFC and got 2 belts is just insane. Absolutely insane. But yeah, I think from here on out, getting to the UFC is a serious achievement, and it's not for it's not for everybody. So if you do, it's amazing.
Well, there's 3 of you on the cusp of kind of Cage Warriors titles, which is a good golden ticket to get to the UFC if you manage to hold on to it and look good doing it. And obviously, Reece, I really believe will be back there soon. Daniel says he thinks Reece McKee needs more self-confidence. He always seems super confident to me.
Reece has so much confidence. Reece and Paul Hughes are the people, and probably Ian Gary, but I'm around Paul and Reece so much, but they just have a serious self-belief. I remember one time, like, we were up training with Reece. My coach was wrestling him, Pat, and, like, just when Pat wrestles you, like, he beats you to death. But I remember he gave me and Reece a real hard time, like, in training one day, and we were driving home from Newry, and I was all down, and Reece was like, I just know whenever I get into that cage, I'll beat everybody, And I was thinking, I need some of that.
Well, yeah, again, we go back to it, that champion's mindset and, like, bulletproof self-belief. And Ian Gary's got it, and like you said, you've worked on it. I am so glad. I didn't realize how close you were to actually retiring. I am absolutely delighted you had a change of heart on that. And I'm so excited to see you fight for this title. And it's on the Saturday night, so I haven't seen the fight order yet to know. Is it going to be co-main below the welterweight tournament final?
Yeah.
So So 2 Irish guys fighting for 2 belts, main and co-main, and closing out the Cage Warriors trilogy. I mean, it's absolutely sensational. I've just given myself goosebumps saying that. Like, I'm so looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, me and Ian actually have 100% record every time we're in the corner together. Like, it's either him fighting and then me fighting, or vice versa. We have 100% win record. So, and in the last one we had 2 back-to-back KOs. So I fought, then he fought. Yeah. So we'll keep that streak up and come away with 2 belts. Bring them back home.
Fantastic. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. Is there anyone you wanted to shout out or thank or anything before we go, Joe?
Just all my teammates, my coaches, Pat, Shando, Donald, and Adam, and Slim's Kitchen for their continued support. They've been sponsoring me for the past 3 years, meals every single day.
Do they deliver to the UK?
Do they deliver to the UK?
Do they deliver to England?
I don't think so.
Their meals do look really good.
Yeah, I'll put in a word with Gary. See what he can do here.
When I was investigating your Instagram, I was like, "Oh, those meals do look decent."
They're amazing, absolutely amazing. And the best thing about Slim's is so you can go to the restaurant and their whole menu has like the macro calories. So you can pick anything from the menu and you can say, okay, right, am I allowed? This has got X amount of carbs, fats, or proteins. So see, whenever you're training for a fight and you're looking for like not only a normal meal or a cheat meal, you can go there and be like, I know exactly what I can have. Like, so like I just spend most of my time there in the lead up to fights. Like, I wish I could order like a Chinese or an Indian, but Slim's
and do you work out your own macros, or have you got someone who does that for you?
My coach Adam, from Strong and Supple, he does all my like kind of nutrition as well. So he does my strength, my conditioning, and my nutrition, and he manages my whole weight cut as well. So like he pretty much just kind of estimates like what I should be trying to hit, and like I mean like I always used to like skip carbs. I used to like have a high fat, high protein diet because I was like afraid of carbs, and I think actually most MMA fighters are like that. But he's really worked hard to kind of change my mindset on that, and now actually most of my meals are like really like carb heavy. So my sessions are all fueled on carbs, and my output is so much better. I'm eating way more now, and more energy in training, and the weight's still coming off. But whenever I start, the best thing about it is whenever I actually whenever I come into fight week, normally I'm like 77 kilos. I have to get down to 70. So on the Friday, the week before, I'm 77 kilos, but I'm 77 kilos depleted. There's not much to come off that. So like I'm trying to like I take out whatever carbs I had in my body, and I haven't really lost that much, and then I have to take most water. But now I'm coming up to fight the week before. I'm 77 kilos, but loaded up on carbs. So I just kind of reduced like those carbs like by like what 3/4 and then a half closer to the fight, and the weight just starts flying off me. So I actually have way less weight to cut, and I've
How
trained
long have
harder.
you been doing it that way?
Much for my last fight with Kieran, that was it.
Wow.
And like see like. I remember Graham Boylan saying to me one time when he's like, Jesus, Joe, like, I mean, what do you do in your weight cut? Like, you just look horrendous. You have never had an easy cut. And I was half dead. Yeah, I was half dead thinking, like, I remember one time he looked at me as I'm like, Jesus. And all I remember thinking was like, I hope my opponent doesn't push me here because I'll just fall back into this radiator. I am lifeless right now. Oh, horrendous. But like for that time, oh my God, the weight cut was like a breeze. I was like walking about. I was able to talk to my opponent like in the stare downs. I felt like amazing. Like barely had anything to cut. So, and I just need to replicate what I did last time. But I'm actually like I track everything. So I have a spreadsheet and it shows all my fights, and every day I has my weight, so I can see today I was 80.3 this morning, but I know in the same day for my last fight, I was actually 81.7. So I'm like almost a kilo and a half ahead of what I was for Kieran Lister, and Kieran Lister was the best weight cut. So like I'm way ahead of schedule at the moment.
Yeah.
So like I like that's a good tip for fighters is to always track your weight and
That's
always
the
add
business analyst in you.
yeah, and but add comments as well. So like you can say, right, well I'm actually like I was way lighter the last time. On this day I'm like heavier, but if you look back at the comments, you're like, oh, that's because I was sick. I was sick the past 2 days before that, so that's not actually a true weight reflection. Like that's just like sick. So it's like having all that data there to look back on, and it's all about like like for me anyway. I always make weight. I've never come close to missing weight, and so it's just about me feeling confident about fueling my body throughout camp. If I see that I'm on the right track, I'll fuel up today, not worrying that I'm gonna like be heavy or whatever. I know that I'm gonna be like have loads of fuel for this session. I'm gonna recover really well, and my weight's bang on where it needs to be. Whereas if I didn't know that and I was a wee bit worried about my weight, I'd be like, I'll skip that meal. I'm going into that session under fueled, not going to recover as well just because I was so worried about the weight. So I think that's like probably like a really good thing. I try and tell all the fighters in the gym you should do that, but they never do.
Yeah. Well, we've definitely talked about the glamorous side of fighting, the hideous weight cuts and the facial paralysis and deviated septums. It's good for people to bear in mind when you're putting on a show for them, like this is what fighters are putting into it. But I hope for you that this cut goes the same as the last one and is pain-free, or relatively pain-free anyway.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time, Joe. I really enjoyed speaking to you, and I wish you the very best of skill for Saturday, the 26th of June. I think is it 124? Cage Warriors 124. 125.
Is it
sorry.
Oh, actually, you could be right. I lose track.
It's the Saturday night anyway. It's the pinnacle of the whole of the trilogies, and it's going to be absolutely amazing. So anyone who doesn't have Fight Pass, make sure that you sign up before then, because you do not want to miss this. Thanks so much, Joe.
Thanks, Katie. That was great. Thank you. Really enjoyed that.
Take care.